Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Just a quick reminder that I do giveaways every week, so if you're interested and don't know how to enter, just stay tuned until later in the video and I'll tell you exactly how to. That said, we've got some malicious compliance stories, so let's jump right into our first one of the day by A Horse Has No Name. Congratulations, you suck as a business owner. Enjoy the consequences. So one of the partners of the business I work for left under bad terms of his own making. He was massively underqualified for the position he was in and spent a lot of time doing menial office tasks because he wasn't up for the real business management responsibilities. After he left, I got promoted from being an accountant to being the controller because I had basically demonstrated I could keep the business moving the entire time he was messing around. No hard feelings from me though. I wasn't angry at the guy and I got a nice pay bump after he left. His remaining partners reformed the business under a new LLC and carried on without him. He didn't reform under a new LLC, so he's been using that LLC to do business. I got a check from the IRS for something like $50. I sent a message to the partners, including him, because it was made out to the old company, and he demanded that since he was still using the old LLC, it belonged to him. But whatever, can I scan you an image of the check? I'm pretty busy. Nope, he wants me to send his mail to him certified. I'm freaking busy and he's clearly teabagging me by text just to show me he was still the boss. Cue malicious compliance. I held onto the check for like 4 weeks or so because I couldn't leave the office in time to get to the post office. He was livid about the delay. It's not my job, but I was happy to do it and eat his abuse because I also had to send him his reminders to pay the registration fees to the state. He did say he wanted me to send his mail to him certified, so I assumed he meant everything. They came to me because he never bothered to update the company's mailing address. So I sent him his $50 check along with the renewal reminder for $150. And the dingleberry didn't bother renewing when he received, so with penalties, it probably came out to be around $300. The fun part is that his former partners were just going to cut a check for the renewal on his behalf before he started acting like a tick. Let me ask you, if this was you and you had the mail, would you have found a way to ship it out to them? Would you have gone and delivered it to them? Or would you have just sat on it until they came and got it? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Reality is Subjective. An old woman tried to con me into getting a deal. I decided to con her right back. Okay, technically this ain't malicious compliance because there's no actual rules, but I still think this story belongs here. My dad owns and operates a little locksmith service in a parking lot, and I used to work for him once a week. It was amazing because unlike my corporate type job, I didn't have to worry about people going over my head to the manager. One day, this old woman comes and asks to have some keys cut. I told her the total will be $7, to which she replied that she only had $5. My dad told me that I can give people benefit of the doubt when I wanted, and I'd rather make the $5 than nothing, so I cut her keys, and when it was time to pay, she handed me a $10 bill. Obviously, this woman had lied to save a couple bucks. So without hesitation, I took the 10, thanked her, and went to the back without giving her change. She angrily asked me back, and I told her that she said she only had a 5 on her. She paid with one bill, so it must have been a 5, right? There's no way this nice old lady would lie to me, so I went to the back again. This time she called for me again, shouting absolutely mad that I had taken her $10 bill. I kept playing dumb until she said the words, "I lied, I'm sorry, I know better." When she finally did, I gave her the $3 change and sent her away. To be fair, I would probably do the exact same thing if this isn't a corporate type deal and it's a family owned type scenario. If you said it was $7, they said $5, and then they gave you a $10, you're getting $3 and change back. I would think the majority of people would probably do that where they only get the $3 back because it's $7 and you gave them a $10 bill. Wouldn't you guys think? Would you disagree with that? Let me know. This next story is by Azzacura, The Time the Agency Got a Request for a Man. A few years back, I worked in a factory through an agency. A worker quit and I offered to take his station until a proper replacement could be found and trained. This job involved lifting 50-pound equipment over your head several times a day and moving heavy machinery around. I was a small female, a bit stronger now, so I had to get a coworker to help me sometimes. It was doable for this short period. Anywho, the factory owner asked the agency for a man because it's a lot of heavy lifting and that's a man's job. He told the agency to just give whichever guy they picked a 6-month contract. The agency sent a 55-year-old man with back issues who wasn't allowed to lift more than 20 pounds. For anyone wondering, it was definitely intentional. The woman who ran the agency was a big feminist and promoter of equal opportunities. Edit. And for anyone who wondered what happened afterwards, not much really. The guy was happy to get hired at his age, and whenever a supervisor complained, he'd refer them to his doctor. I left the company before his 6 months were over, so sadly I don't know what happened after that, but I do know that the agency is still operational and hasn't been sued. Well, good for that guy getting a job that's probably pretty easy for him and a 6-month contract to do it on that. A job where you only can lift 50-pound type stuff and they can only lift 20, they're probably doing pretty minuscule stuff, right? This next story is by JusCallMeEli. Group in shared lab doesn't want to share. Some of my work requires that I use the shared lab. The materials we use require certain safety and cleanliness standards. And because it's a shared space, my group doesn't have full control over the things that happen there. My coworkers and I do our best to be responsible even when others aren't. This includes doing things like replacing consumables, autoclaving trash, cleaning up workspaces, etc. We definitely do more than our fair share of work, but we put up with it so that we stay safe and our experiments don't get contaminated, and also to avoid fines and audits, but I feel obligated to mention safety first. The malicious compliance comes in when one group decided that they don't want to share anything in this shared lab space. They started to label everything with Dr. Grumpy's lab only, including common use items like disinfectant bottles and waste bins. Okay, fine. Our equipment went into locked drawers and we stopped doing anything helpful to maintain their stuff. Within 1 week, their group got cited for misusing the autoclave and for mishandling samples. I also noticed today that they had a new spray bottle of ethanol sitting next to 2 empty ones on their bench. Apparently 70% is too hard to mix from a stock bottle. In the end, I think I'm glad they pulled this move. We get to do less work and we don't have to worry about taking any blame for it. Sounds like a wanting their cake and eating it too type situation, where it's kind of like half the people are actually doing all the dishes, but for some reason the other half only want to be able to use the dishes. So of course, the people that are washing them are just going to wash their own dishes. And the people that don't wash them obviously are going to end up with a huge pile of messy dishes and stacks up to the ceiling, and then they'll get fined and audited. Our next story is by BlueComms. You want us to wear our dress uniforms all day? We can do that. This happened a few years ago, and I look back on it and smile from time to time. To set the stage, I'm in the Air Force and work in communications. Specifically, I work with radios. I'm part of a very normal, quiet squadron that is on a very normal, quiet base. Read, my base doesn't have fighter jets or special operations or anything like that. The squadron was the epitome of the stereotype about the Air Force being more of a corporation than the military. With that atmosphere comes a certain amount of nonsensical decisions that get made, and one of which was made by my commander at the time. He wasn't a bad guy by any means, but also wasn't an ultra Chad maverick from Top Gun type. He fit in well with the atmosphere of the squadron and the base, and most of the time, all was well. One day, word comes down that we are to show up in our dress blues on Monday for an inspection and then wear them all day to increase morale. This morale increasing event would then continue weekly until further notice. For those of you who have never been in the military, a dress uniform is a massive headache. While the Air Force's is much more akin to a standard suit with some ribbons and rank insignia sewn on it with a funny hat, it was still expected that your tailored uniform will be lint-free at all times, unwrinkled, and clean. Things that are never expected of our working uniform, which is essentially just heavy-duty pajamas. They're a pain in the butt to keep clean, They are uncomfortable, and when you're wearing them, you're under constant scrutiny. Needless to say, wearing your dress uniform doesn't increase morale, only blood pressure and the urge to drink. Come Monday, everyone shows up in their fancy, crisp, clean dress uniforms for an inspection. The inspection is carried out, people are told they don't fit into their uniforms anymore and need to get that figured out, gripes are made, and we're cut loose to work. All is well for the majority of the squadron. See, most of the people I work with are your typical IT people, where they're at their desk for most of the day. Under those circumstances, it is absolutely okay to wear a uniform that's more akin to a suit. But in my job, radio, we tend to get dirty. We climb towers, crawl under floors and above ceilings, and often find ourselves in situations that leave us pretty filthy. When we all realized that we were expected to do our work in a uniform that's expected to stay clean and is expensive to replace, we realized that there was going to be an issue. We put our heads together and tried to come up with a way to push all of our physical work off until the next day. No dice. As the disappointment set in, a coworker spoke up. Somewhere in the law-like regulations, there was a line that mentioned that one cannot be made to do physical work in our dress uniforms. After some digging, we were armed with the following. Note, I can't remember if this was the subsection we cited or if there was another. Regardless, this gets the point across. 1.2.1 Airmen will wear the appropriate Air Force uniform while performing military duties. So we sat, following the regulations to the letter and using the time to knock out computer-based training and respond to emails. Eventually, our section chief, individual who was in charge of multiple shops with similar functions, came down to relay that they were starting to get angry calls and to ask why we weren't working. After some explaining, they took it to our commander. I wasn't there for the conversation, but it was relayed back to us. Here's how it went. Section Chief said, "Hey sir, I needed to send radio home to change." Commander said, "Why? Everyone needs to be in blues today." Per AFI, Air Force instruction, our regulations governing everything, they aren't able to perform their work in their blues. Why do they all have to be sent home? Because they were told they'd be in blues all day and didn't bring their normal uniform. How long is this going to take? 3 hours max. Why? A few of them live far away and they need ample time to change, and by the time they get back, they'll be in their lunch block. Fine, just tell them to hurry up. The good news was relayed to us, and we all hurried home and got out of our monkey suits and back into our comfy working uniforms, moseying on back just in time to take our lunches. I'm sure I'll catch flack from all the Marines for that part. We found out that the angry calls had continued while we were gone, and the callers didn't feel much better being told the new lead time on their projects. After that, Blues Mondays were relegated to once a quarter, and it was stipulated that if your work was such that it couldn't be performed in your blues, you'd need to bring your utility uniform to change into after the inspection. We still didn't like the inspections, but it was much better than that flavor of morale boosting. Pardon me here, but the whole everybody's going to be wearing their blues for morale boosting really comes off as a BS excuse to me. It's like saying all the kids can go out to recess, but they're going to take 4 laps around the field first for morale boosting. It doesn't intrinsically just make anybody happier. In the end, I'm glad that OP and the rest of the people in his sector were able to wear their utility pajamas whenever they're actually at work and not having to deal with getting their blues dirty or messed up. This next story is by S3XY Southern B, that one right there. I've written before about my adventures in years gone by working in a mall pretzel place and the wonderfully terrible people, Karens, I came across, but here's another tiny malicious compliance / petty revenge. It's a long exposition on this one, so strap in. We used to sell pretzel bites, little soft bites served in a cup, and these were a favorite of customers. You typically got more than a normal pretzels for only slightly more cost. Ideal for sharing between 2 kids or friends. However, we began getting complaints that the cup wasn't full enough or the bites were too small. Over and over again, people would come back whining how they didn't get enough or the bites were too small. We typically could fit around 10 to 12 pretzel bites in a cup when they were proper sized, and sometimes larger ones or smaller bites would make the cups look more or less full. Usually, it was the same people causing problems. At the mall twice a week, same exact time, with kid in tow for whatever and always complaining. We had a pretty clear, we will only replace it if something is actually wrong on our part policy, and I especially loved reminding customers that if they chose the cup or pretzel, it's on them. This part always made me laugh because we'd have a line around the block and some kid screaming, "I want that cup, not that one, the big one in the back." And mommy or daddy always demanded that one despite me trying to explain it was not full, it was older and intended or samples, etc. Naturally, they returned a few minutes later to try and complain, to which I politely responded, "But that's the one you insisted on having." Anyway, my manager was sick and tired of hearing all this crap. It was around the typical, here comes the annoying needs of bratty kids and parents time. So he asked our cook to make the largest, fluffiest, softest looking bites possible. They were so large we could barely fit 4 in the cup. These suckers were beautiful. It looked like fresh, torn apart bread, gleaming and drenched in butter. Because the sides weren't dark brown, they soaked up a ton of butter. I'm talking you can squeeze an ounce out of those suckers. So the trap was laid. Along comes yet another identically whiny kid and parents in tow. Kid sees the cup and back, demands it. I politely explain it's intended for samples because there's not very many bites in the cup. Mom yells at me demanding said cup. I comply. 2 minutes later, here comes angry mommy and upset kid. "This cup wasn't full, I demand another one." My lovely manager steps in. "Ma'am, you were informed this cup wasn't full and insisted upon it despite my employee's best intentions. I can't do that. You got exactly what you asked for." This repeated for 1 week until we'd cycled through all the obnoxious people and suddenly we have nicer customers. Parents telling their bratty kids, "Let the lady decide, she'll get you the best cup," and a very polite thank you. Hands down, thank manager saved us for a few months from horrible customer service abuse. It's only them to blame. The employees told them exactly what the situation was. They laid it out perfectly for them. They're the ones that couldn't understand that they got exactly what they ordered. So quickly now, I just want to give you info on the giveaway. So if you want to be in with a chance to win $30 in Amazon gift cards, all you have to do is leave a comment pertaining to something you saw in the video on any video we upload this week, and I will pick a winner from a random video on Sunday night after the last video has gone out and announce it on next Monday's video. So feel free to comment on every video from the week to better your chances of winning. Again, I do want to stress that the comment has to be related to the video, so you can't just leave a random comment and expect to win. And whilst you're at it, why not like the video, because it helps more than you know. That being said, our final story of the day is by Advocatus Ebrius Est. Pound of wings? Okay, you got it. I worked as a cook at a chain restaurant that had a wing night where you could get a pound of wings at a discounted price. We didn't actually weigh the wings, our spec said 8 wings to a pound, 4 drums and 4 flats. One night a table comes in and everyone orders a pound of wings. A little while after having the wings go out, the server comes back a little flustered and explains there has been a complaint. Apparently, one of the guys at the table complained that it was obvious that he didn't get a pound because it would be a huge coincidence if everyone's pounds led to the same number of wings on each plate. He insisted that the server go and weigh these already discounted wings to make sure he was getting what he paid for. So we weighed it. Sure enough, it was not a pound. It was a pound and a half. We tell the server to bring it out and tell him he's getting more than a pound. She says, freak no, he paid for a pound, he's going to get what he paid for, and threw 2 of his wings in the garbage and reweighed the food. Still over. Throws another one out. Bang on 1 pound of wings. So she brings back out his 5 wings and calmly tells the gentleman, "Here are your wings, sir. You were right. There was more than a pound there, so we threw the other ones out." Good catch. When they ordered a second round, he didn't complain that everyone got 8 wings to a pound. There's been a number of these stories that I've heard before. I think if it was me, I might see 8 wings and be like, well, maybe it isn't a pound, but I feel like I'd also be too socially awkward to try and call them out on it or try and make any kind of a stink about it really, because it's 8 wings and it's already discounted. It's probably a pretty decent price. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today, so if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video today, please give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you did, whether it was just watching the video, subscribing, commenting, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day and I'll see you all next time right here.